Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glories, and honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Waharakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and teachers of the great millstone. Rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopefully elect. It's the brother I now back with another lesson, all willing, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. This is edifying to the hopefully elect. And this is news from the New York Post, published about 1 day ago. Okay, and we're in the time of war right now. The nations are at odds with each other, and this is one of the prophecies that our Lord and all the prophets have pronounced, the Lord's judgment against these heathen nations, man. Okay, and things are going to ramp up. They're not going to go back to a time of peace. This is the beginning of the end, man. Okay, the Lord's judgment is going to proceed, okay, because the prophets are back on the scene, and they're pronouncing this place we call Babylon the Great, which is America, and we're proclaiming its end. All right, so I got this article right here. It says Houthis attack 2 Saudi flagged tankers in Red Sea, opening second front in Middle East war. All right, it says Houthis attack 2 Saudi flagged tankers in Red Sea, opening second front in Middle East war. So if you've been under a rock, yes, there is a war in the Middle East involving Iran and America and Israel, the small hats. All right, it started with Iran and the small hats, but now America has stepped in, particularly because their main export, or rather import, from that region, which is oil, and their interests with the surrounding Ishmaelites. Okay, they have an agreement that they would give the Ishmaelites in that region protection from hostiles and militias, in exchange for their cooperation to sell their oil in that fiat currency, the petrodollar, right? So, they have military bases all through the so-called Middle East, which is, not Middle East, that's just Western Asia, and if you look at the region, the whole landmass, Asia and Europe is not separated by any waters. So that entire region, even what you call Europe, all the way to China, that's just Asia, period. There's no separation as far as waters or anything between them. So right there, you can tell, like, that man Esau Edom is telling lies just based on that. But that's another video for another day. Let's get into this article, and Lord willing, to be edifying. Okay, it says Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi terrorists fired on two Saudi oil tankers off Riyadh's southwest coast, effectively spreading the simmering U.S.-Iran conflict in the Red Sea on Wednesday, right? And, you know, like I said before, this war is not going to go back, to peace. Okay, the Lord is kind. I can get that, you know. Okay, Exodus 15:3. He says the Lord is a man of war, a man of war. The Lord, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, is his name. All right. When you go into that word, Lord, in all caps. All right. And this is where, the Bible goes off, but nonetheless, it's displayed in, a way where the elect of Israel will be able to decipher it. Okay. And if you look closely, I can't zoom in, but H3068, it says the original. Okay. And if you decipher those Arabic letters, it's spelt Y Y Y H Y A H A W A H. You know, so it says Yahweh, the existing one. Okay, that's why we say he exists, right? It says self-existent or eternal, Yahweh, the name of the Most High. Okay, all right. Let's go back to the. Okay, it says Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi terrorists fired on two Saudi Arabia Saudi oil tanks off Riyadh's southwest coast, effectively spreading the simmering U.S.-Iran conflict in the Red Sea on Wednesday. Now, if you know anything about that region, okay, Saudi Arabia, uh, is right on that. Well, let's get it so I can display where I'm talking about. Okay, this is um, it's the region in question. So, as you can see, the Red Sea is right here, right? Here goes Saudi Arabia right here. And here goes Yemen right here. All right. And there's a pinch point right at the bottom right here. Bab al, I can't really see what that is. Bab al Modab, right here. All right. So that area right here is just like this right area right here. All right. The Persian Gulf. And as you can see, Iran is on one side of the Persian Gulf, and United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, all of those countries are, um, set up with U.S. military bases. Okay, so for the ships to get out of the Persian Gulf, they have to go through the Strait of Hormuz, which is right here, which Iran controls that area right here. It's another pinch point. Okay, and you got to go past that point, and that is the area where Iran chooses to make their stand for the ships not to get past them. And now you have another pinch point right here being attacked by the Houthis. Iran back you Houthis, okay, to prevent ships from going in and out of the Red Sea. Now Saudi Arabia was taking their oil instead of going through the Persian Gulf. They got a pipeline that they built to push their oil to the Red Sea and go around to that side. But now that the Houthis are attacking that pinch point right here in this area right here, they've got a pickle. They're in a dilemma because now both sides are being attacked and constrained for their movement of their goods, man. So, that is very strategic. And I believe that Iran warned the U.S. that if they kept on attacking them, that they would activate those militias in that area to attack, the ships, so they won't be able to get out. All right. It says the Houthis claim to have attacked Saudi tankers in Syria and Lila with missiles and drones for their violent violation of the blockade decision. Houthi spokesman Yahya Sari posted to X, the Iran-backed terror group imposed a blockade on Saudi Arabian ports on Monday. All right, so you see this thing is not, going away, man. It's not going away. This thing is turning up, actually. Okay. The announcement came as the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations reported a tanker being struck by an unknown projectile, which has caused a fire on board that the crew are currently fighting. See that? So the crew on that ship is fighting for their lives because anybody knows that oil and fire are not two things that you want to combine. Okay, that's a recipe for disaster right there. All right. So, the Lord is turning things up, man, and that's going to affect, oil prices, because less oil now is coming out of that place. And furthermore, you got a bunch of ships in that region that is just sitting, because they're afraid to try to cross the Strait of Hormuz, and now they're afraid to cross the strait over by the Red Sea. You know, the port is being under attacked by Yemen, um, the militia Houthis, Iran backed Houthis in Yemen. Okay, and that's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Slovakia. And that's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai turning things up, man. You know. Oh, before we get that, okay, yeah. All right, Isaiah 13:4. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains. Mountains represent governments, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. Right? They come from a far country, from the end of the earth, of the heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Right? And this is what's going to happen, man. The Lord is going to unleash his weapons of indignations, right? Indignation meaning righteous anger. Okay. Why? Because the Heavenly Father has witnessed and you know, beheld his people um be misused there, man. You know, and he's not going to continue that to allow that to happen, man. Okay, the punishment of Jacob is at hand, man. Okay, and now it's the nation's turn. Okay, starting with Esau, Edom, to drink from that cup, right? And you know, it's the Lord's doing. Okay, that this whole war is starting off, man, because that area in the Middle East, if you will, okay, that is the area where that war, Armageddon won, mountain of troops, okay, World War III. Okay, it says 2 wars have passed, and the third war cometh quickly, right? So World War One and World Two has passed, man. The third war is a war that is coming quickly, okay, and you see it's turning up, okay, and the Lord is mustering the host of the battle. It's going to start off with just America, you know, Iran, but now you see it's expanding. The military, Iran military, militia-backed Houthis are now activated, okay, and don't forget that you have China and Russia that are allies through to Iran. So somehow, some way, it's going to spread eventually to them. And Russia plays a big part in this World War III, man. Okay. Um, let me go to. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Um, Zephaniah 3:8 says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. And who's the prey, man? None other than Esau, Edom. All right, and along with these other nations that's in cahoots in confederacy with them. Right? It says, for my determination is to gather the nations. All right, that I may assemble the kingdoms. to pour out mine indignation, right? Indignation, okay? Zaham, H2195, it says anger, indignation. It says strictly froth at the mouth, that is figuratively fury, especially of the Most High's displeasure with sin, angry, indignation, rage. The Lord's rage is going to be unleashed on these nations, man. It says that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour out mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for the whole earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. And the fire of his jealousy is these plagues that's going to come upon this earth. Okay, war, pestilence, earthquakes, fire, okay, and ultimately these intercontinental ballistic missiles that's going to be shot off in the four corners of the earth, okay, to come here to Babylon, to set her on fire and burn her and melt her down, man. Okay, you don't want to be caught here. Okay, that's why you got to turn back to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Rakakwadash, you Israelites, you sons of Jacob, man. Okay, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, right? Okay, and right now as I'm speaking, the river Euphrates is being dried up to make way for the kings of the east, man, to make war in that region. Okay, the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, man, Lord's judgment. All right. Let me get this. And make no mistakes, man. Don't make no misconception. Okay, the Lord's plan is being executed to the T, right? Second Ezra 15 and 28. It says, behold, in a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. And where is that region that the war is being fought right now? In the east. All right. It says, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, right? And this is one of the main nations involved, Arabia, right? That Arabian Peninsula, okay, on both sides of it. All right. It says, the multitudes of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. See? Okay, the Lord is putting that spirit in those Arab nations to stand up to America and their allies, man. Because for a long time, it was so that America had them in derision. Okay, if you read up on that Iran-Iraq war, America was one of the nations, the main nations behind that, funding both sides and giving them weapons. Okay, and the scriptures say he was blessed with given a great sword to take peace from the earth, right? Roughly paraphrasing, and that's what he did back in the 80s. All right, and so after they were done, having them go to war, they painted Hassan Hussein, Saddam Hussein, as a villain, so they can invade his land and take his oil, and so forth and so on. And that whole region has been under, attack and been pillaged by America and their allies, man. And see the Carmanians, okay, which is about to get into that, which are the Persians, the Iranians, sat back and watched all this going on, and the Lord prepared their spirit to fight a war. The Lord prepared their spirit to fight a war differently from their allies. See, America has big, tanks and, you know, slow, old world military equipment, because that region, that's what they left over there. The majority of the equipment over there is old world equipment. Okay, this mainland Babylon we live on, has all the new stuff, but they don't want to take it over there to fight that war because they need it to protect themselves here. But that old world style, them big bulky, um, tanks and you know, Iran has new equipment, drones, speedboats, quick striking equipment that can maneuver those slow military equipment America got over there, and the terrain is suited for Iranians and the Houthis to fight guerrilla warfare. You see, they know that terrain, and they use it to their advantage. Okay, verse 30, it says, also the Carmanians, which is the Iranians, raging with wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. All right, a wild boar is fearless, man. When that thing starts charging and tries to gore you with the tusks, you know, it's like a football player running past, you know, running through the line, man. You get in the way, you gonna get balled over, man. It says, with great power they shall come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians, right? And then shall the dragons have the upper hand. See, the dragons of Arabia right now, all right, they have the upper hand. Like I told you, they got better equipment, okay? They got China and Russia feeding them information of how to fight this war, okay, and how to prepare for it better. And the Lord is allowing them to outmaneuver America and all these strikes that America is doing. Okay, it only goes so far, man. You ever play what's that game? That little game that it's like a gopher coming up out the hole, and you try to beat that motherfucker with the mallet, and he popped back down in the hole. That's what Iran is doing right now. You know what I'm saying? Okay. It says, remember, it says, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. All right. And what nature is it talking about, man? It's talking about the nature of Ishmael, right? All right. Genesis 16. And I'm going to start at 11. It says, and the angel of the Lord said unto her meaning Ishmael's mother, okay, uh, Hagar, right? when when you know, Hagar's son Ishmael, okay, which is the progenitor of the Ishmaelites, okay, um, had behaved proudly against Isaac, and Sarah witnessed it, okay, and she banished, exiled Hagar and her son Ishmael, right? So the Lord came to Hagar, and she left. She left with her son and tried to, escape. And the angel of the Lord came to her and said, "Behold, thou art with child, right, and shalt bear a son." Okay, because Abraham went in onto her because the Lord had, you know, had Sarah barren. All right, and Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham to go in unto her to produce a son, but that child was not the chosen child. Okay, it says, "Behold, thou art with child, and thou shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thine affliction." All right, verse 12. It says, "And he will be a wild man, and his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren." See that? So if you look in that region, Ishmael is dwelling in the presence of all his brethren. Okay, all those nations over there are Ishmaelites, right? For the most part, right? And Ishmael is a wild man. You know, he's going back and forth with, you know, multitudes of people, man. You know. Now let's go back to right. It says in verse 31, "And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature." And we just told you what their nature is: a wild man, a wild boar, right? A dragon of the Arabians. Okay, a if you know anything about the you know the the animal, the what you call it, the lizards that dwell in a desert area, right? When they're in danger, what do? They hide under a rock. They hide in the sand, and that's what you know the Carmanians, these Persians, are adapted to, man. They hide themselves underground. I was just reading an article just the other day where they have underground tunnels and underground caverns, okay, where they're actually hiding their military supplies in caverns, man. You know, so America is bombing above ground, most of the equipment is safe underground. You know, it says, "Remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, uh, conspiring together in great power to persecute them." Okay, and that's what you know that's what is happening right now. You see, the Houthis is now joined together with the Carmanians. Okay, and eventually, is going to involve Libya, some of these Hamite nations, right? And eventually, you know, Russia is going to get involved, and China is going to get involved. You know what I'm saying? The Russians are remember, it's pronounced to be a guard to the smaller nations, right? So, this thing is going to escalate, man. And in the meantime, you Babylonians are going to be paying more for food, more for oil, more for gas. You know, this thing is going to escalate and it's going to come to an edge, man. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying and to the point. Till next time, I say shalom and abide the ball.